Hello there. This one will have the eco-loons breathing a sigh of relief and saying, "Thank goodness for Brexit." Well, if we don't see our UK eco-warriors getting across to the EU to protest over this, then they're just showing what hypocrites they are. Because the European Union Commission is putting up plans to tax energy companies across the whole EU to enable member state governments to give relief to vulnerable citizens and businesses. But the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen also said that non-oil and gas companies, such as wind and solar, must also be taxed. We will propose a cap on the revenues of companies that are producing electricity with low costs. The low-carbon energy sources are making, in these times, because they have low costs but they have high prices on the market, enormous revenues. Revenues they never calculated with, revenues they never dreamt of, and revenues they cannot reinvest to that extent. These revenues do not reflect their production costs, so it is now time for the consumers to benefit from the low costs of low-carbon energy sources like, for example, the renewables. We will propose to rechannel these unexpected profits to the member states, so that the member states can support the vulnerable households and vulnerable companies. Whereas here in the UK, because of green pressure, we're not doing that. Only fossil fuel providers get windfalls in the UK, it seems. Hello, Houston. We have a UK-EU policy diversion. And there are a couple of EU countries that don't want this to happen to them either. Spain, for example, has raised objections. Now, I admit that if we're going to impose a windfall tax here in the UK, then it should fall on all that enjoy the benefits of the windfall, not just those that the Greens label as bad. But somehow here in the UK, the Green lobby won through. But I suspect the UK eco-loons, who are mostly avid Brexit haters, will keep their heads down about this one and hope no one notices. They are not going to praise Brexit for allowing the UK to not tax the profits of their precious renewables. Now a couple of points. The first is that the EU Commission says this is not a tax. It's a levy or something, a windfall levy. In fact, they refer to it as a solidarity contribution. Because if they called it a tax, it would come under the rules of unanimity, meaning it would only take one veto vote in EU Council from, for example, Spain, to stop it in its tracks. Although taking money off of companies for the government to spend sounds like a tax to me. Another point is that when going through the EU Council of Ministers, it will take what's called a reinforced qualified majority of the 27 EU ministers to agree to it. That means 72% of them, that's 20 of the 27 ministers, must agree. But further, those countries those 20 ministers represent must have at least 65% of the EU population between them. So what the EU is doing is applying an EU-wide tax system and getting round the unanimity requirement by not calling it a tax, to the point there could potentially be 7 member states and 35% of EU citizens unhappy about it. Wonder what the SNP partners in the Scottish Green Party think about this, especially as Sturgeon and her ilk would be prepared to rubber stamp absolutely anything the EU pushes out. Now, these are only draft proposals at the moment, so we'll have to wait until it's all agreed. But it does show how EU mission creep occurs, doesn't it? Now, von der Leyen has also talked about a price cap on Russian gas, but The Guardian reports this is now not the case, after pressure from EU member states that rely so heavily on Putin's fossil fuels, and those who make a profit from their own gas and oil within the EU. And now for a quick extra snippet of news. Have you heard of the Caravan of Light, sometimes referred to as the convoy of light coming out of Turkey. If not, I would use your favourite search engine to take a gander, and then ask yourself, why is this not in the mainstream press?